न paryāpto gni-dṛṣṭānto darśanasya prasiddhaye sa-darśanaḥ sa pratyukto gamyamāna-gatāgataiḥ.
Na paryāpto gni-dṛṣṭānto darśanasya prasiddhaye sa-darśanaḥ sa pratyukto gamyamāna-gatāgataiḥ. MMK chapter 3 verse 3. Fire as an end in sight is not adequate for establishment of an act of looking. Such an object, conjoined to an act of looking, is refuted with reference to the now being visited, the already visited, and the not yet visited. So I didn't understand this verse whatsoever when I translated it in 2017. Although at the time I did think that I'd made a good stab at understanding it. So now I feel like I do really understand it, having done the groundwork in chapter 2 and in the previous 2 verses of this chapter. I feel like the penny dropped. But on the basis of past experience, another couple of years, I might look back on the way I understand it now and see that again I'd missed the point. But see, previous translators have also been enemies of the truth, and you first come across a verse like this in Sanskrit and you don't really understand anything, so you look at what previous translators have done, and sometimes that's like trying to build a house on shaky foundations. So sometimes it takes kind of effort to demolish the shaky foundations and start again from scratch. So the word gni-dṛṣṭānto is usually translated either to as the example of fire, because dṛṣṭānta in the dictionary is given as meaning example. And if you're talking about philosophically, to use a concrete example of things is something which occurs quite a lot in philosophical texts. So people think, well, dṛṣṭānto, dṛṣṭānta, which is drishta means seen, and anta, end. So an end that is seen suggests a conspicuous example. So that's how gni-dṛṣṭānta, agni, fire, drishta, seen, anta, end. Gni-dṛṣṭānta we translate as the example of fire. But only yesterday or the day before it occurred to me that because that makes it difficult to translate sa-darśanaḥ. That's the translation I was struggling with in the beginning of the third pada. So sa-darśanaḥ seems to mean, sa means possessing, so sa-darśanaḥ means possessing. So sa-darśanaḥ is nominative singular masculine. So darshanam, as an act of looking, seeing, is a neuter noun. So it's darshanam with an M in the nominative. But this sa-darśanaḥ is nominative masculine because it modifies the second sa. And sa means that, and that is gni-dṛṣṭāntaḥ, that sighted end, fire-sighted end, fire-sighted end. You see, it all fits together. So let me explain how I've come to let me explain my translation first. Fire as an end in sight. Fire as an end in sight. Gni-dṛṣṭānto. So I'm saying that it's not an example of fire as you would set up in a philosophical examination. It's fire as an object of seeing. So the contrast is between seeing an object and the act of looking. So the act of looking is darśanasya, genitive, and he speaks of prasiddhaye, dative, for establishment. Dative means for, the purpose of. So for establishment of an act of looking. Darśanasya, prasiddhaye. For establishment, prasiddhaye, of, asya, genitive ending, an act of looking, darshana. Of an act of looking, darśanasya, for establishment, pratyukto. So the first words of the verse are na paryāpto, na paryāptaha before sandhi, and that's nominative singular masculine, modifying gni-dṛṣṭānto. And so apta is, remember, because it means the same as the English apt. So paryāpta, fully apt, means adequate. Na paryāpta, not adequate. So gni-dṛṣṭānto, fire as an end in sight, in other words, fire as an object, is not adequate for establishment of an act of looking. The meaning is clear if we understand the way the previous verses and chapter 2 in the way we've explored them. Because an act of looking is an empty happening. It can't be established as a thing like a stone with reference to an object, because a true act of looking does not have subject-verb-object. So I say the key for me was to realise that dṛṣṭānto in this case means an end in sight, an end sighted. So it's about end gaining. It's what we talked before about seeing and looking. An act of looking is not subordinate to your desire to know, to see, to grasp with your visual system the object that you conceive as out there. Fire as an end in sight is not adequate for establishment of an act of looking. Then the difficult third pattern starts to make sense. Sa-darśanaḥ sa, pratyukto. So pratyuktaha, again, nominative singular masculine, agreeing with sa, which agrees with gni-dṛṣṭānto. Pratyukta means refuted. So ukta means said. It's the past participle of vach, to say. And prati means back. So it's like answered back, refuted. So sa means gni-dṛṣṭānto. Fire as an end in sight. That is refuted. Sa-darśanaḥ. Now that's the word that foxed me for the longest time. What does it mean, sa-darśanaḥ? Then the penny dropped. It means, sa means that object. So I've translated such an object. Such an object in square brackets. Conjoined to an act of looking is refuted. Because the act of looking is an empty happening. If you can't add on to it an object. It doesn't work like that. That's conflating an empty happening with a self-existing thing. If I say that watering can is the object, then there's no act of looking, because the act of looking is an empty happening. I've just turned the watering can into a self-existing object. So you can't have an empty act of looking at a non-empty object. So sa-darśanaḥ, sa means that object, that fire as an end in sight. Conjoined to an act of looking, sa-darśanaḥ, is refuted, pratyukto, with sandhi goes to pratyukto, and then with reference to the now being visited, the already visited, and the not yet visited. So that's here it's instrumental plural, the I ending. Gamyamāna-gatāgataiḥ. Gamyamāna, the now being visited. Gata, the already visited, the past. Agata, the not yet visited, the future. And then the I ending means it's instrumental plural. So with reference to those three things. Gamyamāna-gatāgataiḥ, with reference to the now being visited, the already visited, and the not yet visited. So again, this kind of confirms, I think, that we're on the right track of exploration here, because we saw in the previous chapter that an act of looking, for example, gatis chesta yatra gatis tatra, where there is a bodily action, there is a way to go. Gamyamāna-gatāgataiḥ, nagate chesta, gamyamāna-gatis tataha. So, where there is bodily action, there is a way to go. The action, chesta, is in the now being visited, not in the already visited, not in the not yet visited, not in the past, not in the future, but in the now being visited. Therefore, in the now being visited, there is a way to go. That was verse 2 of chapter 2. So the act of looking is also chesta. Truly, the act of looking is not looking just with the eyes, it's looking with the whole self. So the act of looking takes place not in the already visited and not in not yet visited. That action happens in the now being visited, wherein there is no action like an act of looking conjoined to an end in sight, conjoined to an object. Na paryāpto gni-dṛṣṭānto darśanasya prasiddhaye, sa-darśanaḥ sa pratyukto gamyamāna-gatāgataiḥ. Fire as an end in sight is not adequate for establishment of an act of looking. Such an object conjoined to an act of looking is refuted with reference to the now being visited, the already visited, and the not yet visited. So what we're talking about here is the impossibility of establishing an act of looking. An act of looking is an empty dharma happening. Even though we call it an act in a singular, it's an empty happening. And it's also chesta, a bodily action. On that point, I've copied a quote here that I wanted to read out from Charles Sherrington in a book he wrote in 1946 called The Endeavour of Jean Fennel. Jean Fennel was the the grandfather of physiology. And people say that Charles Sherrington was like the grandfather of neurophysiology. So in 1946 he was already an old man, and by that time he'd met F.M. Alexander. I don't think the meeting had gone very well, but nevertheless, in that book, The Endeavour of Jean Fennell, Charles Sherrington praised Alexander, even if he didn't respect him or revere him as a person. Sherrington could appreciate Alexander's work, and so he wrote, "Mr. Alexander has done a service to the subject being how everything works as a whole, by insistently treating each act as involving the whole integrated individual, the whole psychophysical man. To take a step is an affair not of this or that limb solely, but of the total neuromuscular activity of the moment, not least of the head and neck." So the truth he's investigating there is the truth of sabakaya patisamvedi, the whole body being informed with thought. That's the truth you study in the Alexander technique. But then, to take it further than that, there's the truth of body and mind dropping off. So the whole psychophysical man is a step in the right direction. But ultimately, action leads us to go beyond psychophysicality, to see psychophysicality also as part of the dependent arising of suffering, namarupa, born of ignorance. Seems to me that both Alexander work and Nagarjuna's teaching are pointing very much in the same direction, which is towards dropping off of body and mind. On the way, one learns the self, but learning the self turns out to be a matter of forgetting the self. Forgetting the self is dropping off body and mind, or body and mind dropping off. An act of looking is body and mind dropping off. And perhaps a distinction can be drawn there between just sitting as an act of looking and sitting with the intention of being enlightened, which is trying to see. I know whereof I speak.
न paryāpto gni-dṛṣṭānto darśanasya prasiddhaye sa-darśanaḥ sa pratyukto gamyamāna-gatāgataiḥ.